So here's the pressure system. This is the controller. Controls the pressure. Takes helium from the tank across the room, comes in here, and then it's sped out to the cryostat through this capillary tube. This is the cryostat. Capillary tube runs between it. This is a safety valve which is always installed so that we don't overpressurize anything. This unit is here only for evacuating the capillary tube. We have to evacuate before we apply the helium, and that's what this device does. It's removed through quick release when it's evacuated. Once the capillary goes into the cryostat, it then feeds up and goes through into the cell. So this is the cryostat. The cryostat, we have to get inside of this to get at the cell. Now it's not connected at the moment, so this should be fairly simple. Just release the top clamp. There's two clamps. The second one shouldn't need to be released to do that. And it should just lift off carefully. Once inside the shroud, you have the radiation shield. The radiation shield is attached with a series of screws all the way around. They're small screws. Be careful not to lose them. I imagine they're metric. It might be hard to find them. Once you've removed the screws, which I've already done, you can just slide off the radiation shield, exposing the cell. Now the cell is held with this split ring device, which is held with a set screw, and it's also connected to the capillary tube here. So this has to be disconnected first. You'll have to find a wrench to do it. We had to use an adjustable wrench because we didn't have a wrench to fit, and once again I expected to be metric. So the capillary tube is disconnected. We'll use one of the the capillary tube is now disconnected, and we want to release the end cell by using one of the provided Allen keys. I simply back out the set screw until the cell spins freely, and there you have it. The cell is free. Now I'll move to the desk and we'll take this apart. So now we have the cell. You'll also notice that I've started wearing gloves. I'm not going to hurt the diamonds with my fingers, but why get my oily hands involved? To open the cell, we have to remove this knurled ring. It just turns off, fine thread, so it takes a second. And you want to do it upside down. I'll explain why in a second. I want to do it upside down so that this device does not get dumped out and damaged. It's just sitting here. It's held by the ring onto the top of the piston. This is the diaphragm. The pressure comes through on this side of the lower side of the diaphragm and exerts pressure on the piston, and in the center of the piston is a diamond which presses against the other diamond in the body of the cell. There is nothing to be done with but this, except be extremely careful with it. It's a precious commodity. We put it aside. So now I have the cell, and I want to open up the cell. Removing the piston is complicated by the fact that it doesn't just fall out. It's in there with extremely tight tolerances, and it has to be pushed out from the back. Easy Lab provides 2 screws to do just that. You mount the screws on opposite sides. And I never use a screwdriver with this. It's enough just to turn these equally by hand with your fingers. Check every once in a while to see if the cell has fallen out, and there it is. So now I can take this away and I can remove the extraction screws. And again, don't lose them. So now we have the body of the cell with a diamond in the center, and we have the piston. Inside the cell are one part of the cell and the gasket, a gasket and a gasket holder. This is the gasket holder, the copper piece. It allows the gasket to sit there and holds it centered over the diamonds. So here we can just pull it off. There. You should make sure you know which way it goes. The grooves, small grooves here, or notches better, fit over the screws that are in the body of the anvil. So you'll see on your side, you'll see this. Two longer grooves. When you put this into the body of the anvil, you have to make sure that those grooves line up with the holes in the side of the body of the anvil. That's important because at some point you're going to need to sight down there. See, now I can see right through to the other side, and I can see whether or not the diamonds are in contact if I have a scope. So it sits there. This piece is a gasket. It's been pre-dimpled, hence the shape, and pre-drilled because it has a hole. It forms the sample chamber for this little device. And it's held nicely right there in the piston. That's the other diamond. The diamond closes down on the edges of the hole that's in the gasket, and that becomes the pressure chamber. Our objective here is to create another gasket in another material. So the first thing we have to do is we have to check the alignment of the cell, and we have to check for dirt or dust or corruption. And I'm going to go to the scope and do just that. So the scope revealed some dirt, corruption of some kind, on the cells. The flat part of the cell, of the diamond, is our anvil. So cleaning it can go in stages. You can start with just a dry swab. If that doesn't take it off, you can actually add a little bit of methanol, try and soften it. If you're unsure of where the dirt is, you can work at the back a little bit. Remember, be gentle. You can't hurt the diamond, but it is adhered in place. And we'll do the same here. And then we'll check them again. If there's still a problem, if something's very stubbornly attached, you could even use some fine sandpaper. Just be careful that you're not changing the shape of anything. You're not going to hurt the diamond with it. And when you're finished, make sure you get all of the grit out. So I'm going to go back to the scope and test these. Okay, so I used a little methanol and a swab, and I cleaned them off, and we're ready to go. So now comes the risky part. Diamonds are extremely hard, but that means they're also brittle. Well, you can't hurt them with much of anything else. If you bang two diamonds together, you could chip them. That would be a disaster. We have to put the piston in the cell and bring the diamonds into contact to check the alignment. You need to be extremely careful doing this. The problem is when you put the piston in the cell, again, those extremely tight tolerances mean it doesn't just slide down, it will jam at some point. If you continue to push and add more and more pressure, it will at some point give, and you will bash the two diamonds together and you will get fired. So the trick is to never put more than minimal pressure to close the piston in the cell. And if it jams, use lateral pressure to try and find the point where it releases so that you can gently push them together. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to take the anvil, I'm going to line up the holes, and I'm going to set it inside and gently, 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 gently. See, now that's become stuck. I'm going to go to scope and we can take a look at where exactly I am. Okay, so I've checked the diamonds for alignment and we're in good shape. Now, of course, I have to get them back out of there. So once again, I turn the cell over and I use the extraction screws to remove the piston. And we're good to go. So now we have to move on to the gasket. So the gasket has to be pre-dimpled and pre-drilled. So to start with, we're going to pre-dimple it. This is done using the anvils. We're essentially going to use the anvils to put an impression in the gasket of the anvils, of the diamonds themselves. And here are our gasket blanks. Let me get one out. One, guys. So this gasket, I'm not sure what it was, it came with the system. These are the blanks they gave us, they're beryllium copper. And we're still working on a way to get micron accuracy measurements of this thing. So I'm essentially doing this by hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the gasket holder back into the body of the anvil, making sure that it's aligned so that I can sight down there and see what's going on if I need to. There we go. And I'm going to put the blank in the holder. There, now it's folded rigid. So the idea here is I'm now going to put the piston back in. I'm going to close it up. This is not quite as risky because now of course there's metal between the diamonds and the metal can't really hurt the diamonds. Still be gentle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the diamonds to make an impression in that gasket to thin out the layer that's going to be between the diamonds when we drill it. So that is done in the following way. We put the piston in the body. Yeah, it's giving me a little trouble going in, so I'm going to rotate it. And there we go. Gentle pressure to put it down. Now, I can't possibly put enough pressure on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to use another set of screws to draw the piston down on that piece. So this time the screws, these little black ones, go in these holes. They don't, the threads are in the piston itself, right? So just turn them in, and again you have to be careful here because you don't want to make your hole lopsided. So I'm going to start by putting them in and turning them a few turns. Now I'm going to go in a cross pattern. Here, here, then here, here. And I'm going to repeat that until turning them by finger until I feel them have some kind of a resistance. I'm not going to damage the gasket with finger tight screws. Now we get an Allen key also provided, and just make sure that they're in contact. There. Light contact. I haven't dimpled the piece yet. Now I'm going to put more and more pressure on these. It doesn't take many, probably not more than half a turn, but now it's incredibly important that you do it evenly. So I'm going to start here with this one. I'm going to cross over and do this one. Then I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to start with about 1/8 of a turn. Almost messed it up. So I've turned each of them 1/8 of a turn. That's not going to be enough. I know from previous experience that it takes more force than that. But I'm going to go now another 1/8 of a turn. So that's a second 1/8 of the turn. That's still not enough. I need to put almost as much force as I can put on these. So I'm going to go now another 1/8 of a turn. Oh, not there. Across. See, that one's getting difficult now. There. Now, that's still not enough. I'm going to try for one more 1/8 of a turn. I don't think I can, but when I get to the point where I can't turn it anymore, then I'm fairly sure I've dimpled that gasket. Here we go. Nowhere near an 1/8 of a turn. Now, across the sides. Now here. Now, I'm very close to having enough, but I'm going to take one more attempt to turn it. Not a chance. There. That's adequate. Has to be adequate. I can't do any more. So now we can back out the screws and see the result. Again, do it evenly. Oh, if you can. There we go. So now I can turn them out. Quickly. out. Now, of course, I can't get the piston out without using the extraction screws again. They go on either side. And I push out the piston. There we go. There's a sample holder and our new gasket. So I'll take that to the scope so we can take a look and see how it looks. So we have success. The silver one is the one that came with the set. I'm not sure what that's made of. And the bottom one is our beryllium copper gasket that's pre-dimpled. The little ridge you see is where the material between the diamonds was squeezed out to thin it down and made a little ridge around it and the angular sides. Next is drilling the hole. Not doing that myself. I'm going to the machinist to do it. So in the meantime, I'm going to put the cell into storage. I'll put it together. In fact, let me show you. So here we have it. So I'm going to put this into storage. I'm going to keep it in the case. I'm not putting it back in the cryostat because I have to take it out again to load the cell when the time comes. I have to remove the extraction screws and I have to put the sample, the gasket holder in place. Like that. And now, since I don't want to put the camera failure. Since I don't want to put the piston in the body of the cell without something between the diamonds, since that risks smacking them together and cracking them, I'm going to use the old gasket and I'm going to put it back. And now I can I'll align the holes and just let it sit down. Safest way to store the membrane is to put the whole thing back together. There we go. This is ready. I'm just going to put it in the case and we'll see what happens after I get the hole drilled. Thanks.